Alright, with the Super Bowl game, no, more like a massacre over with. It's time for the offseason, and with that comes teams making moves to get better, try to host a Lombardi or at least progress. And I thought it'd be a good idea to list some moves every team needs to prioritize. Who better than me, Board Talk, to help give guidance to these teams in their hour of need. Today we're going to start off with the AFC North, widely regarded as the best division in football. And the first team we're going to talk about in the NFC North is the Cleveland Browns, aka the third worst situation in football. And with Myles Garrett requesting a trade, that marking a momentous occasion in Cleveland Browns franchise history, being that is the first smart thing I've said in Cleveland since somebody said, hey, let's draft this Baker guy. Hopefully they can follow better on this idea than the last one, which is going to be hard to do. Myles Garrett is a top 3 player at his position, but it is the Cleveland Browns, so if any team can fuck it up, hey, the Browns probably could. The Browns definitely can. And speaking of Garrett, that's the first move they need to do, is trade him, but not only Garrett, trade Ward, trade Njoku, trade all your older vets in hopes of getting more assets. Now Garrett can and will, if the Browns have any competency left in them, can fetch you 1-2 first, maybe a couple of seconds. Overall, can get you about 3-4 top 100 picks, and that should be like the bare minimum. No, Denzel Ward could probably get you a late first, couple of seconds, similar to the Marshawn Lattimore trade package, and with that, they would lay in a great foundation for the Browns heading forward. Another move they absolutely need to do is change the team name immediately, give it a whole rebrand, and I'm being very serious. The Browns culture has been bad since they've been called the Browns. Since back in the day before they lost the team, they was a bad team. I don't care what the records say, they was a bad team. Then they lost the team, and then that team changed to the Baltimore Ravens, and within 4 years they won a Super Bowl. I know, crazy logic, but I'm just saying, no matter how good a roster they had, no matter how good the coach had, for God's sake, they had Bill Belichick, and they had him looking like an inadequate ass coach. The losing culture is just tied into their uniform, their name, their stadium. And I truly believe no matter what kind of roster they put together, they can have every top 100 player on the top 100 NFL top 100 ranking. They can have all of them. I know the logistics don't work out that way, but because it's 53-man roster, but take the best 53 off the top 100, they probably still miss the playoff. And it doesn't matter what coach, GM they have, the name Cleveland Brown, them brown and orange color, the elf as a logo, that's all tied to losing culture and will bring it down, bring the roster down. And with the Myles Garrett trade, marking a new era for the Cleveland Browns, take advantage of this opportunity and do a whole redesign, rebrand, just for a fresh new feel of the Browns. I'm not even saying you got to change city, just everything else, change it.
I don't care. You take this and you burn it.
There's not any part I can keep?
No, it should be burned. Okay? It's good to see you, like always, in the shoes, too.
All right, next franchise, we're talking about a slightly better franchise in Ohio, the Bengals. We won a couple years ago. The Bengals just come off a Super Bowl loss, just coming off a conference finals loss to the Chiefs, and you're like, hey, this team looked like it could be the next NFL dynasty there with the Chiefs. But 2 years of Burrow's injuries and slowly losing key defensive pieces due to cheap ownership can really weigh down a roster, and it shows on this year's roster. Their defense was horrible. Burrow was having an undeniable better year than the 2 MVP finalists, and Chase was a Triple Crown winner, and they missed the playoffs. That should never happen. First move the Bengals absolutely need to do is address their defense, which is a kind of obvious thing. They should put a heavy emphasis on addressing their defense. I know it's round pick, they're going to take a defensive start, but I think they should go heavily into it, especially with cheap ownership and the recent news of Jermaine Pratt requesting a trade, meaning they need even more defensive help. All 3 of their first top 100 picks on defense, just the best defensive player available. They were 19th in rushing defense and 21st in passing defense. So it's not they need one thing or another. They really need everything. They just need talent on the roster. So with all 3 top 100 picks they have, go heavily on the defense, and you have a mixture of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Zach Taylor calling plays. You're going to be at least top 15 on offense, and a approved defense with a top 15 offense is undoubtedly enough to get you into the playoffs, and Burrow in the playoffs is similar to a prime Tom Brady. Another move the Bengals should have done before the trade deadline and before he's off the books is trade T. Higgins. The GM knew coming into the season you weren't going to have enough money to pay T. Higgins and Trey Henderson. both contracts that were expiring this year. In his later statements, further emphasized he said, I don't have any money to play everybody. So why would you let the roster rock out with this? I know you were still trying to make the playoff push, but you know your record at the time. You knew what you could have done. And it's just a poor GMing. I'm not calling him the worst GM in the world. I'm just saying, what's something you could argue, but I'll put that more on his ownership than him. So why not trade T. Higgins instead of losing him for nothing? You could have got any asset from here. Your defense needs work. Your whole roster really needs work. So why would you lose an asset for nothing when you don't even have to take any money back? You could have got a day 2, a day 3. You could have even got a day 1 pick from a team like Dallas. I heard there's some really smart guys in Dallas. You could have got a first off of them for T. Higgins. But no, you're gonna let him walk, or you're gonna have to make a decision. Which you should. And what the move should be, I know I just prefaced all that, but the move should be move out T. Higgins and keep Trey Henderson. Why would you lose the league leader in sack when your defense already needs work? You really need that presence on the defense, a good pass rusher foundation for having a good defense. So you're going to address the defense while losing another key defensive piece like Jesse Bates, like O'Neal, like Jermaine Pratt now. I mean, you're going to get some assets for Jermaine Pratt, but you're losing 3 key defensive pieces that you are now losing in back-to-back seasons. Why would you let another piece go? So the obvious answer is to let T. Higgins walk, go get a couple of vets, like a Deontay Johnson, Tim Patrick, Elijah Moore, Zach Pascal. Lower vets is not going to really demand too much of a contract to appease your cheap ownership. And with those receivers filling the edges, and you having Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, like I mentioned earlier, that is a good formula for a top 10 offense. But the way the cheap ownership go, they probably wouldn't pay either one of them and just might fuck around and sign a Khalil Mack. Next, we're going to move on to a team with less obvious needs, the Baltimore Ravens. First things first, get Mark Andrews off the team. And not because hire some security for Mark Andrews as he leaves the team. And not just because he dropped the ball that would have tied the game in the AFC semifinals. But the drop is just like the cherry on the top for a less than ideal season for Mark Andrews. And with the rise of likely a younger, better, cheaper option at the tight end position, trading Mark Andrews should be the top priority. And get like a day 2, day 3 pick from where you can just revamp your roster, add some more talent to it, similar to how the Chiefs did with Tyreek Hill. I know you're not going to get the same trade package back, but similar mode to kind of mindset of the trade. And the second move they need to make is nail the draft. I know, easier said than done, but that's the separator between teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles and the perpetual losers like the Bills. And nailing the draft is going to be relatively easy for the Ravens due to they only really needing 2, maybe 3 key positions, that being needing a true edge rusher and wide receiver. And what they need to do is take the edge in the first round. I know they drafted in the back end of the draft, but take one of the assets you get from the Mark Andrews trade and your own first round pick, move up and go get James Pace Jr. to really address the issue for the next 5 to 6 years. So I hope Jack Sawyer falls and get a receiver like Bonds, Trey Harris, to give Lamar Jackson a true secondary receiver. And getting any combo of the guys I named in the draft at edge and wide receiver would definitely put the Ravens into the next tier of team with the Chiefs and Eagles, as long as Lamar don't choke. And the final team for today, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know I just made a video on them, so this segment is probably going to be the shortest, but the first move absolutely should be quarterback. And it seems that the Steelers are on the same page a little bit. They're in the same area, same grouping, and thinking with getting a quarterback. Not Trevor Lawrence, though. He's way too much, and our roster has way too many holes, and we have to give up way too much to get a Trevor Lawrence, which the trade really didn't make sense, which has me thinking that the Steelers are definitely going to fumble this offseason like they've been fumbling the last 7 offseasons. But quarterback is a key position for our team. I mean, I know we had a decent steady hand with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, a combination of both, but Russell Wilson got worse and worse as the years progressed, and we really didn't see what Fields had. Should have put Fields back in the game, put him back in during later in the season, especially when Russell Wilson had that rough patch, to see what Fields had for our future. I thought that was the reason we traded for him, not just for him to be a stopgap quarterback, but not to harp on too much. Like I listed in my other videos, I think we should trade up for a Shador, trade up for a Cam Ward, go get those guys, and not just settle for any other teams leftovers like a Sam Darnold. Please, for God, don't bring back Russell Wilson. And I'm glad I would not consider myself a Pittsburgh Steelers fan no longer in my entire life if we brought Aaron Rodgers in. God bless Deshaun Elliott. And the second move we need to do is get some more offensive weapons. Slightly below average when we had George Pickens, and when George Pickens went down, it was quite literally the worst receiving room in the league. So whatever quarterback we do bring in, whether it be the young hopeful prospects or Mitch Trubisky 2.0, Sam Darnold, or one of them's corpses that still think they got it, they need weapons. They need somebody to catch the ball, to get open. For the first pick, we should undoubtedly, if we don't trade for a quarterback, get a wide receiver one. We haven't drafted a wide receiver in the first round in the last 25 years. And it shows in our passing game each and every year. So let's go address the issue. And with that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment grading these teams' moves and what you think. But other than that, have a blessed one.